Okay, so one of the things once you've actually sent that out there and you start getting responses, you need to look at the selection requirements, and we'll go back and talk about what you're sending out there in the invitation to tender in a moment. You obviously want to have a clear outline of requirements in that statement of work so people know exactly what it is that they're going to be supplying. Now, one of the most important things to do is ensure that all the responses you get back are in identical format. If you send this out there and you let everyone answer in whatever format they want to, you just can't interpret it, because it's like this one's got it answered here and this one's got it answered there, and you have no tool for evaluation. You have no way of being able to do it. So it's better for you, in the statement of works, for you to actually put a questionnaire in there and say, give me a rating whether you can do this 1 out of 5, and detail how you would do it. So, for example, if you were going to send out a statement of works or an invitation to tender to an electrical company to fit out, a high-rise building, then you would say, give evidence similar projects and make, high-rise, 5 levels, 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom fit out. Then you'd say, show that you have the capacity to have the tradespeople required to do this within the time frame, etc. So you'd actually go through this and you'd actually get them to answer the information under the format and in the terms that you want it back. Then it's easy enough for you to go down and give it an evaluation, a numerical valuation. So, oh yeah, they get 5 out of 5 for that, they get 2 out of 5 for that, they get 3 out of 5 for that, and at the end of it you can actually add it all up, give it an average, and then you can compare one against the other. When you're doing that, the statement of work or the questionnaire that you send has to, you've got to apply common sense to it. And one of the big things I say in here is that not to have any duplications or ambiguity around it, because quite often people ask the same thing in a different way, even if they don't mean to the external party reading it, and they say, well, that's the same as that one. So they just say refer to such and such, and it's just really frustrating. So you need, when you write this questionnaire or when you write this information that you send out to people, you have to give it to somebody who wasn't involved in the process and say, tell me what that means to you. And then if it comes back and they say, oh, it's just too hard, you should internally perhaps have a limit on what you send out, so a maximum of 4 pages. So you might have a maximum number of pages, a maximum number of questions, or a recommended set of information that you can send out, pick out 1 out of 5 of this or that, so that when you're sending it out there that it's not too onerous. You need to do it, but you need to do it with common sense. Perhaps you should determine the length of detail you ask by the value of the contract. So if you've got a contract that's worth 50,000, you might be limited by 5 questions. If you've got a contract that's worth 5.5 million, well, fair cop, fill it in or you don't get it. The other point in there we'll go back to is thinking ahead. Word it so that you're able to apply numerical values. As you know, I like numerical values because they actually tell a story without you having to try and interpret something. So then you can go through and sort of say, that's, as I say, that's a 5 out of 5, that's a 2 out of 5, that's a 0 out of 5, and at the end of it you can get a good position as to whether somebody's actually going to be able to do what you need it to do. Or if you've actually broken up your tender document into sections, you can actually do that evaluation over each section. Oh, they'll be really good at the supply of that sort of electrical material, but they won't be at that, so we could get another contractor in if we needed to split the work or something like that. So how you word the document's really important. The other thing is also provide one point of contact so that questions can be asked, or give the people who are going to respond, give them some way of asking questions. And it might be that if one person asks a question, that everyone else needs to know about it, so you then might publish it on a website somewhere or something like that, so that the one question is then responded to, that everyone else can see it, so you don't have to answer the same question, by all the people that are going to respond to it. And a good idea, if you've actually got a significant project coming up, a good idea is actually to have an information session about it, where you actually hand out the documents, the statement of works and the questionnaires. They get the opportunity, or you actually might provide it in advance. You invite them all into a forum. They all get a chance to ask their questions, and then they can go ahead and respond to it. So that at least they've had some point-to-point contact. So after you've actually sent out the invitation to tender or whatever you may have, and then you have got all your responses and everything else, then you need to go through an exercise of comparison and evaluation and then selection, long before you get to the stage of doing the real work. So obviously this is all a scoping, and so this is all a concept and all a design exercise before we get to the implementation. Alright, so there's always a way around these things. Okay, so when you're looking at managing it, so now you've actually sent it out, you've done your evaluation, you've chosen who it is that's going to be involved in the project, and you've got your contract signed. Now, I'm not going to give you an example of a contract because that would just be like giving you a box of dynamite. Contracts are very much down to specific circumstances for the particular project with the specific parties that are involved. So my word of advice to you is, whenever you are involved in contract negotiation, make sure there is somebody who is legally qualified to be there as well as you. Don't try and do it yourself as a project manager, because it will bite you big time. So try and get the right people involved. So we've gone through that stage, we've got the contract signed, everything's done, and now you're actually managing it. And obviously you have to have some process in place to measure DIFOT. Okay, to make sure they're doing what they should be doing, when they should be doing it, and to the quality and to the standard and in full as you require. So your performance, your adherence to contract, and then your payment approvals. Okay, so you get to a certain stage and say, okay, now we've got an invoice from them, or now we're actually sending an invoice out. Yeah, is it applicable? Yes or no? And off they go. You know, you can then approve it or not, or you go back to them and say, no, you still need to paint that wall over there, or you still need to do something else before we're going to pay you. Change requests and variations. So has anyone been involved in a project before where you've actually had change requests and variations? So Todd, what's yours? So it's just time and materials being added. And doing that, I've seen that in use where people have a multi-part form. So I presume that's what you're doing. You've got a multi-part form where you fill it in, say they're doing this and this, you sign it, blah, blah, then we'll do it. Yeah. Contract variation or change variation can be as simple as that. It can be a pre-printed form that you fill in, you both parties sign, then you go off and do the work. And your assessment requirements will need you to cover something like that. There happens to be a form in the templates and forms page, but it's up to you what you use.